Hello there, I'm another Magento dev, and in this video we're going to have another look at Vue StoreFront. I'm going to attempt to show you how to get started with it. Where do you start? Because the last video, which I'll put up a link to there, was set up and install, and now this is sort of got it set up. You want to start getting some experience with it. Where do I suggest you start? Well, for me, a good place to start is the homepage. The reason for that is that it's going to give you a bit of a touch point, a few like experience points in a few different areas of sort of GraphQL, Magento's GraphQL, actual Magento 2 versus Vue StoreFront, like compatibility and how they sort of can link together. And it's going to show you a few different things and give you some experience, because what's difficult with this is the majority of it is sort of already built. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've got category pages are all working, we've got our product pages, it's all sort of up and running. So unless you've got a specific brief on what you want to do, it's hard to, for me anyway. I was looking at it thinking, well, where do I start? I mean, most of this we're just going to be able to sort of feel our way through with common sense. But I think once we've got a bit of deeper knowledge about how the two things can sort of collaborate, Magento 2 and the Vue headless. And where I'm going to start is I'm going to start with the home page, and I'm going to start with trying to get the home page of Vue StoreFront to show the content of the home page, so the page builder content from my Magento 2 store. And now one thing I've discovered is that natively Vue StoreFront doesn't seem to support the Magento page builder, so we've got to fiddle about with it to get it going. But it makes sense that they're not doing that, because you could use any, they're sort of leaving it open. I think you could use any CMS, any sort of content management system. You're not limited to the Magento 2 page builder. You could use like WordPress if you want for your homepage stuff. You could use a SaaS like Netlify or Storybook UI, or there's countless out there that you could actually send content to this application with. But I'm thinking, for simplicity for Magento developers, and you want to sort of get up and running, the Magento 2 page builder is a good place to start, I think. So what you're going to need? Well, you're going to need, I would say, some way of querying the raw GraphQL endpoint. I'm using Altair here, which is a Chrome extension, which you can just get from the Chrome store if you search for it. I've also got the docs for StoreFront UI. The reason I've got that is that's the underlying framework of Vue StoreFront. So it's got a lot of components, and it sort of might come in useful for taking a look through sort of anything that you might want to customize and anything that you might want to add, because it's the same gear really as Vue StoreFront in the back end. I've also got the Vue StoreFront docs up. Fairly limited, which is why I'm doing this video. It gives you some real basics, but I think the prerequisites of this is that you've got experience with Nuxt really and Vue. But we are going to touch on a few of those sort of concepts now in this video, so stay tuned if you want to sort of learn a little bit about Vue and Nuxt sort of in the context of Magento 2 development, which might be quite useful for some Magento devs without experience in those frameworks. So without further ado, let's get started. So what we're looking at, right? We're looking at here on the home page, we're looking at static content essentially. So Magento, Vue StoreFront does have the ability to pull through CMS content. It's built into it. So if I go to default home, bad example, home's like the roots reserved, but if I go to About Us, it's going to give me my About Us page from this store. So that's fairly useful, right, straight away. But this About Us page, for example, as well, isn't using the page builder code. Well, it isn't using anything of note. It doesn't look to me, I think it's just the default stuff that was thrown in there, and it's essentially just a text block in there. What I want to do is try and make use of the layout, at least the layout that's output from the page builder. It's going to be useful as a CMS. Let's pretend we've chosen that as a CMS. Let's pretend the client has said, look, I don't want to redo all my content, you've got to make it work. So let's make it work. So the first thing I need to do is I need to go into find out what's providing the homepage with its content. And at the moment, it's, as I said, it's all this static content. And now, me using my common sense, like, what's the closest thing then to the CMS page output in Magento? And for me, it's this page here, which is the page view. This is the page that's providing the CMS page. So this is the code that's providing the CMS page, as I showed you, for About Us here. And we know that in Magento, the content is basically provided by the page builder in the back end. In the back end content, I'll go to it, but I think we know what I'm talking about. I'll let this load in the background. But you know what I mean? The title, everything else is sort of template based, and then we have the content being output from entry into this area. I'll just touch on it in case you're not fully familiar with it. So we've got, like, I was looking at the about page there. We've got the content, which is in a specific place in each of these pages, and then his output. And we can learn how it's output into the API to GraphQL by looking at alt text. So this is the About Us page. Look, we've got the titles coming out, the URL key. These are all the fields that you expect to see. So here, don't you? There's your content. And as I say, it's not really using the page builder. It's just dummy content that's being said. It's just HTML code. And that's basically all the API is sort of currently, the template files within Vue Storefront are currently able to get. And I'll show you where it's getting that content in Vue Storefront actually before we just move on to this bit. So if we go into components, there's a component here called HTML content. And as you can see, all it's doing is using this DOM Purify plugin, which is sort of stripping out some bits of the HTML, and it's using VHTML, which is a Vue HTML parameter, which then outputs HTML to a div basically, and the div is this component which you utilize, which we can see in page. So this is all HTML content is going to that component. HTML content is here, look, that's the tag, and then we're passing in that prop, it's called, which is basically a variable. That prop, so first of all, the page has got to exist and the page content has got to exist, and then it'll pass the content using VHTML in the other template to this area of the page. So it's really simple, modular sort of component based building, and it's really easy to then extend, replicate, and that's what we're going to do. So where I would start is, right, so first of all, I know that for the purposes of this, I can throw out all of this here. Now I have took a backup. I would advise you take a backup because there are other ways you might want to put your homepage together. Your homepage, you might decide that it's too much work just to grab the homepage content from the page builder and throw it into Vue Storefront. So I would say take a backup, because you might want to use static content blocks to power your homepage, because it is sort of a global page, isn't it? So you might want to do that, but I'm not going to cover that in the scope of this video. I'm going to cover getting the HTML content from the homepage. So the way I would do it is, first of all, I would grab this content and I would put this in my homepage. So I'm basically replicating the code, and I might call this homepage for now. And I'd also call this name homepage, and I'll show you why in a second. And then I'm going to let it build, which is going to take ages, because it normally takes ages. It's normally quite slow. It's just gone through quite quick there. And now if I go to the front end of my app and go to the homepage, page not found. Right, why is it doing that? Well, it's doing that because the router within Vue Storefront is not looking for the homepage. It's got no, unless it's got home, or unless the slug or the identifier is next to there, you know, and it doesn't work with home, but by default we'd have to do something else to the router. But I'm not going to mess with the router, you know, unless you've got the slug here. It's not going to find it, so it's not going to find my home page yet. But because I'm using a template file here, I can actually change some of this code here to make it work. And the key thing to look out for is this default little identifier here, because I can tell this is fetching my content, and it's saying the identifier is either param slug or props identifier, right? And that, so if it doesn't find params slug, which is coming from our router, look, params is coming from the router, and as I say, because I'm using this template file, I'm essentially taking the router out of the equation. So I could actually, I'll come back to that, but I want to use props identifier here, and I know the slug of my home page is home. So if I go back to this page, I know the slug of my home page within my URL key, it has a URL key, even though we don't show it on the front end, it shows at the root of the domain. I know that it's home, right? So if I change that little piece of information there, and then I save it, it's not quite working just yet. So props identifier should be outputting content to the page. What I might do is so that's using default. Yeah, identifier. Let's just try something here. There we go. Right, so what I did there was I took the router out of the equation on this template, and I just said look for props identifier as the identifier, which is that content there as type string. And now, as you can see, I'm getting the content from my store, but it's missing some stuff. And answers in the comments what it's missing. It's missing the CSS, isn't it? Right. And it's missing some key things within the CSS as well. Like, if you look at the way, and it's missing it for a real odd reason as well. The Magento page builder, if we just jump onto the front end here, and you might know this about the page builder and know what I'm going to say, but a lot of the CSS is output to the page, right? And we really want to use this because it's useful stuff, right? You see this here? This is output to the page in Magento, and you can see, if you look closely, so if I do a search for, in here, HTML body, you can see down here what it's getting from the API, right? And when it's output to the page, you see how it's not encoding it correctly, and it's essentially, therefore, stripping out the page.content call here, what I'm sending to this component. We'll just remove the header for now, actually, because we only need the page content. This, when it goes through to this component, DOM Purify is stripping out the CSS tags, the style tags, so it's not rendering correctly for me. So how do we sort that out in Vue? Well, what I would do, there might be a protocol for this, but it's not documented in the Vue storefront docs. But what I would do is I'd create another component, because I don't want to lose this functionality, because it may be useful in CMS pages going forward. But for the home page, I know specifically I need those styles if I'm going to use the page builder. So in components, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create something that's similar to that component there, the HTML content component. And I'm just going to call it page builder .vue. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this content, I'm going to put it in my page builder, one that I've just created, and I'm going to remove the DOM Purify plugin, and I'm going to replace it with just string. And then I'm going to come into my home page, and you can see it's one of my components here. And in fact, I'm just going to get rid of the heading component that I got rid of there. So now I've only got my loader component and my HTML content component. Now I could, for the sake of sort of consistency, change this, but I don't have to, because this is just its reference within this component. And then I want to change this as well to my actual component I've just created. So now this is pointing at HTML page builder, which I've just created, rather than HTML content. And this reference is this reference. So all this matches up, which obviously is good for consistency. Give that a save. Actually, if I'm doing that, I also need to change this. So now I'm getting the page builder component on my page. Obviously, it would have been quicker just to change that reference there, the page builder, and point everything to it. But you know, let's do things properly. If we're going to do something, we'll do it right. Can't remember if I saved it right. Okay. Give that a refresh. Okay. Now, there. It's now been output to the page. Yeah, just like it is in my Magento 2 build. Just like it is there. Great, right? Not yet. Not great yet. Why not? It's not working. And that's because of this idea here. This exists in Magento. And on my Vue StoreFront doesn't. So simply, again, this is the beauty of using a home page rather than trying to integrate it with page. Because I can be specific for the home page then. As I say, this is purely my opinion on how we get started with this. You know, there might be other ways people can think of doing it. That's the beauty of Nuxt Vue. This is the beauty of these frameworks. You can do it however you want. This is just the way. You might go down the road with this, following me, and then you might think, do you know what, Adam, you're talking shit with that bit. I'm going to do it better. And then you build upon my knowledge, standing on the shoulders of giants, basically. So I don't mind that. I encourage it. I just want to get people started. So HTML body. Now I've added that ID. There we go. We've got some semblance of structure. Look, we've got our, at least, and this is the bit I was after really, is my columns, look, my flex grids here. Forget this bit for now. This is where it gets a little bit more complicated, and I would probably advise not using these parts of the page builder, which is obviously going to change your strategy. You might want to have a different page built for your Vue solution, which could be like a duplicate of this page. You know, you might want to build different pages for different solutions, or you might want to go the whole hog and get this working, styled up and working within the slider. That's out of the scope of this video. What I wanted to sort of show you was getting started. Now, we're missing some pieces of the puzzle here, because there is some styles built into Magento which shows and hides different images for the viewport and stuff. But that's a good thing in terms of this tutorial, because the next thing I can show you then is how to start integrating your own CSS with the Vue StoreFront framework. And this isn't necessarily in the Vue StoreFront docs, but it is in the Nuxt docs. So what you want to look for in Nuxt, and it is pretty good Vue StoreFront. It is really close to the Nuxt docs, like in terms of the Nuxt config, JS and stuff like that. It is very close. So if you've got experience, which I have with Nuxt, it wasn't so much of a leap to start getting used to it. So if I want to include custom CSS in a Nuxt app, you know, say I've got a core build of like Tailwind or Bootstrap or something, then I want to have my own custom CSS style extensions, as they sort of call it here, then you can use this technique in Vue StoreFront to get your styles through. The funny thing is, it isn't sort of in there. Like the CSS, if I search for CSS, it's not there, right? And you can use SCSS, by the way. I thought they might have just popped it in for you, but you can add it anyway, as long as it's in like the root of the of the base config, right? So I've just found a little place what makes sense to me. CSS, and then just open up an array and then comma, just like here in these docs, right? And then I can add my stuff. Now there's a little bit of a, and I just want to point out to you, they've given us an head start, Vue Storefront, which is why I'm surprised they haven't sort of, you know, added this in, maybe commented out or something like that. Because if we go into assets, this file is there already, style CSS, and this sort of resembles a SCSS, a SAS process done it, like, so you can see I've added page builder here. But what I want to do really, if I'm following sort of you know, best practices, is I want to just add styles. I could go and add all my style sheets that I add in assets, but really I just want to add styles. And I just add it by doing @ which means root directory, assets, it's like a shortcut, then assets where it lives, and then styles. Okay, and this is going to add it globally. You can take a single file component approach if you want to this, which would mean that you import it. It is in the docs here. Like you can import it. It is in the Vue Storefront docs. So you could import it. You know, import your page builder or import homepage styles or something like that. But I'm just going through. So another approach would be to import into this component here. But I thought to myself, if so, we could do this. Right, and then we could say like page builder in there if we wanted to, and then it would only use the page builder CSS on, and that'd be SCSS, sorry, SCSS there, which would match that, and it would only use the page builder styles that I'm going to put in there on the home page. But I'm not going to do that because I'm conscious the page builder is sometimes used in category descriptions, which product descriptions and product attributes. So you might want some of these styles which are global to the page builder in your app globally. You know, it's not far-fetched to sort of imagine that. So I'm thinking at this point I might change my mind, and you might correct me, community, but I'm going with a global implementation. And then let's tidy this up actually. So we'd maybe say something like page builder as a folder, because I might have other areas in here, and I might just put that in there actually. My page builder SCSS, and then we'll import it just like an import directive, and would say page builder yeah, for now. So it just gives you the basics basically. So now I can come into my page builder and add some and I can add some styles to this, which help me out with you know, the page builder essentially in Magento, which brings some styles through. Now, which ones we need, right? Okay, well, we can sort of start going through the classes, and I'm not going to go through all of them in this, because you can see we've got a bit coming out. Look, my HTML stuff's working now, you know, output into the page. But we can actually go through some classes in Magento. I think one of the most basic ones is like getting this sorted. And I think for the purposes of this, like some of the page builder styles are in styles M, some of them are in styles styles L. So for desktop, I would probably just to make it simple for now, like just do a media query for max width. Oh, sorry, min width. This would be. And we'll just for now, we can obviously adjust these, or you can adjust these in your own project, but we'll give that a media query of that, just to make sure that we're sort of replicating. So this would be sort of a version of styles L, and this would be styles M, and then we'll do that as a max width. So right, let's just save that. Okay, so these you want. So mobile hidden is a style within. Let's go down. Where's mobile hidden? Mobile hidden. Page builder mobile hidden. Oh, I'm missing that. Right, we'll start with this one. Look, mobile only is getting displayed none in L. So getting displayed none in the desktop styles. So let's see if that works straight first of all. Yeah. So that's got rid of my mobile images, look. So it's already looking something like, as I say, just ignore what's below that for now, because that's a hell of a lot of CSS and messing about to get that sorted. I wanted to just talk about the basics. So that's getting that sorted. But if then we go down, look, we've got the desktop image on a mobile. So we've got to find out what's making that tick on actual Magento. So that's removing that on the mobile. So if we go near it, and then we'll just have a quick look. Where is it? Why can't I find this style? There we go. There we go. Sorry. Page Builder Mobile Hidden is the style that's hiding images on a mobile, and that's in M. So as a basic start, we can do that. And then it updates, hot reloads. So we've got basically the function. I know there's more padding around these ones on this, and we probably want to go a little bit further, but I won't make this video last any longer than it needs to. I mean, that's not, particularly the top part of it, that's not untidy, and that didn't take me long to sort of get my head around. And we've got some things set up as well, like if we want to start enhancing the CSS in there or extending the CSS, we've got more we can do in there. We can come up with more template pages if we need to, if they need to be more bespoke, and we've just got to make sure that we add them to the router. So, you know, this gets you started. Yeah, I hope that was useful. So in here, and let's just save that to make sure we're all caught up. Yeah. So I hope this was useful for you. If you like this type of content, give us a like. Obviously subscribe to my channel, it really helps. Yeah, bit of an half an hour crash course there in getting started with Vue, StoreFront and Magento 2 as its sort of CMS. So yeah, great stuff. Happy with that. See you in the next one.